I'm going to start with a really great synth by discoDSP that I like called Discovery Pro. This, as far as I know, is an emulation of a Nord keyboard, but I'm not sure exactly which one. And I don't know that it matters. So here's my default patch, which is just a saw wave. And I know that's super loud, so you might want to turn down a little bit. I go through a pretty standard amplitude filter envelope tweaking stage as I'm getting my sound, so let's go ahead and do that. So we want a pad, so I'm going to adjust attack and release first. Now on Amplitude, I probably won't do too much detailed adjustment. Amplitude envelopes are a brush stroke. They're a broad shape of the sound. You'll see what I mean as I go forward. So let's start working on that. Now I know I'm going to do some more specific or surgical carving with a filter, so I probably don't want my attack and release to be the exact shape I want. I want it to be a little wider than that, so I'm going to reduce the attack time. I'm going to increase the release time from where I probably will end up. And unless the amplitude envelope is really part of my sound carve, I am not going to use an exponential curve. Yeah, I'm streaming right now. All right, I think that'll work. So let's start setting up our filter. We'll do the same thing, but on the filter envelope, we're going to have a little more precision. So we are going to tune the decay and sustain, but for now, let's attune the attack and release. Try this X filter. I think I'll stick with the low pass 12. Maybe we'll do some comparison later. Be a little slower. So until we start to hear the pad in tempo, we won't really be able to tune the filter envelope out exactly how we want it, but we can get a rough start. Okay, we can use that for a start. Now I want to do a classic ADSR shape so that there's constant movement even when we're sitting on the notes. So I'm going to tune the decay next. I'm going to drop sustain all the way down. Obviously, we don't want that. A little too short. Nice. So let's find a level to sit that at. It's pretty good for now. A little aggressive. We're also pegging the, we're clipping the channel. Well, we're not clipping it, we're pegging the limiter. All right, cool. We have our envelopes in place. I am going to try this soft saturation for this particular patch. So I like that. So when you're doing a pad, if you want a little more sparkle on the top end, just bump your cutoff frequency up a little bit, like that. And it'll start from a higher point in the frequency spectrum. I'm going to leave it dark for now. And then if it's too bright, drop the envelope amount and it'll take some off the top end. Anyway, let's go on to the LFOs. So I think I'm going to do a pitch LFO. So on this Discovery Pro, you have some options here for the destination. You can click through the buttons like this, or you can just set the individual buttons. So I want to pitch LFO on oscillators 1 and 2, so the whole sound. I'm going to do a very subtle vibrato. I want a triangle wave. I'm going to sync. One thing I wish Discovery Pro did was translated the ticks into actual beats, because I'm not that smart. I can't just automatically calculate ticks into how that's going to shape out in terms of the tempo. All right, so let's get some exaggerated pitch LFO going on. Pretty cool, huh? You can turn that up. Now, obviously, we don't want that, so we're creating a vibrato. You can see this little percentage down here in the window. I sort of in my head associate that with cents, but I'm not sure that's what that number means. So the Discovery Pro has some sort of arbitrary number relationships that aren't like super clear to me when I use it. Maybe they are to you. Right, so our pitch LFO is pretty good. Let's move on to LFO2. LFO2 can also be the arpeggiator. We're going to use it as an LFO, and I'm going to leave it on the filter. So let's get some extreme amount going on. We'll sync the rate. So with a pad, I probably want some kind of slow thing. Now, you don't have as much choice with the waveform here. I think it's a triangle by default. really just want a subtle sort of oscillation in the filter cutoff frequency. All right, not bad. So we've gone through our amp, filter, 2 LFOs. Let's work on our waveform a little bit. I'm going to keep the saw wave. Now I'm going to actually blend in a triangle or a square. Let's start with the triangle, see what that sounds like. It's very subdued. If I had another LFO or knew how to work this better, because I'm not an expert on this synth, I would do maybe a pulse width modulation, but for now I'm just going to use a square wave, good old fashioned. Square waves will dominate over a saw wave, all things being equal. For now, that should do it. And then it gives me a dedicated panning oscillator, which I am going to use. Nice, right? So the thing with pads is if you know how long the pad is going to be on, let's say, I don't know, 2 bars in 4/4, then you kind of know how long the pad needs to be interesting. And so with 3 things oscillating, by the time your ears actually sort all that out, and if you change chords, then you can keep the pace of interest moving. But we're not done yet. The true magic in the Discovery Pro synth, and subsequently or originally from the Nord, is this little button right here is the magic. Ready? So we've come a pretty long way from just a plain old sine wave or saw wave. ourselves a pretty nice pad. There's probably some more things I could do with this synth. Oh, yeah, for example, you can add waves, samples into the mix. I'm not going to do that in this case, but I have experimented with this, particularly if you're working on a lead or a bass or a key sound where you've got an attack on the front. There's some really great samples in here to add an attack. So let's call this patch done. Start working on the channel strip, and then we'll do some composition.